if you can't find that place where you still have a purpose and you're feeling good about life, like it will tear you apart.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, or if you're just joining in, welcome. My name's Dustin Meza. Some of you know me as the Paralysis Assassin. Today's day one of our Paralysis Assassin podcast, so please forgive me for my terrible interview style, but I promise I'm going to get better. Thank goodness we had Sherown Campbell on with us today because he absolutely crushed it. Let's take a listen.
That's awesome, man. Have you ever has mom or the kids, has anybody in your circle taken any sort of like initiative towards helping you recover by way of like they've taken some classes on, I don't know, like a weekend massage course or just something to help your recovery program?
Not currently. I think my mom did Reiki when I was in the
Okay.
hospital.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a short-lived thing. Other than that, though, no one's taken those steps, but that's also not something that I would want of them. Like, they provide things that my massage therapist doesn't. They provide things physical therapy doesn't. Like, that love and support, like that's why they're there. Like, they're the outlet for me, to laugh and joke around and be careless. Like, I need them for those things because I'm not going to get that anywhere else. So I don't know
Yeah.
if I would change that.
Hey, man, laughter therapy is a huge thing. A family
Yeah.
that can bring you peace, that's invaluable right there.
Yeah. I want them to be friends. I don't want them to be caregivers. So,
Right.
they'll do any and everything for me, but I have different relationships for different reasons. And, I love them for what they are. I mean, one
That's
day maybe they'll have to be caregivers, but I'm not there yet, and I'm not trying to go there anytime soon.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. I sometimes it seems like the roles get really cloudy and caretakers end up being caregivers and you end up kind of losing your relationship to these constant tasks.
Yeah, and I think because the relationship I was in when I was injured, I do think that took like a heavy toll, like feeling like someone was a caregiver. Then there was almost like hostility and negativity towards me because of all the extra stuff that they had to do. And,
Sure.
then it's no longer man and wife or in a relationship or boyfriend, girlfriend. Then it's like, I'm having to do these things because of you.
Yeah.
And that really, took a toll.
Yeah. Yeah. Been there, man. I saw that movie. Yeah, that was a tough one. Relationships feel so kind of more impactful. It would, breakups like that, a little more devastating when you've got so much more on the line, so much more that is, compromised that you're dealing with. What do you think, uh, or rather, what do you wish people knew about spinal cord injury? Whether they've are in your community or whether
um,
they're just like folks in the grand world of things.
I guess one of them would be that the real accomplishments and goals and progression usually are not around uh, walking or these other big functional milestones that sometimes we think they are.
Mhm.
For a long time, just being able to do transfers to help my family get in and out of cars, like that was probably one of the biggest things was not having to take a power chair and the
Wow.
world that opened for me. Like it wasn't about walking, and same thing with emotionally growing and being able to handle this. Like there's people that have complete injuries, who are very unlikely to ever regain anything. And they have found like a way to live like the most fulfilled lives. Like it's not always about movement, it's about finding our own peace, our own identity, things that we have a purpose for. And, that's really where our time and effort should be spent. I'm grateful for the movement that I have, but if I didn't have peace in it, I'd be just as upset and pissed off as, the next person. Like, you can go to anyone down the street and you can put them in a boot or on crutches for a broken leg, and they'll feel terrible just for a broken leg. So, I mean, even though I'm moving great now, like I could still complain, I could still be mad and upset, if you don't find a way to find that happiness emotionally and mentally, if you can't find that place where you still have a purpose and you're feeling good about life, like it will tear you apart.
Wow, man, that was powerful. Do you think that there's some things missing? Sorry, from the spinal cord industry?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it seems to be based right now for, at least on the recovery side, like towards medical devices and pharmaceutical companies, like things that they can actually get money from. Um, for me, it's kind of frustrating sometimes because having gone through college on an athletic scholarship, the amount of money that was spent on me to get better at sports instead of the amount of money that would be spent on me to get me off of disability or to make me live independent um, is just absolutely crazy to me. Like if we could actually take some of the resources and knowledge that, have gone into athletic sports or professional teams and applied that to someone recovery, you would see them recover. You would see them get better. It would be at a lower cost than all of these other drugs and medications, but we're not applying those things. And that is more like on the physical end, but some of the stuff that we're paying a lot of money for, for entertainment purposes are not being applied to spinal cord injuries. Like we keep looking just at like the really clinical side, just the devices, just the medicine, instead of the physical movement, the training, the mentality, the psychology of it, their emotional state. Like there's other more important things that we could apply that would really help people.
I totally agree with that.
Hey guys, real quick, while we're on the subject, if you or someone you know has a spinal cord injury, then this book is for you. My name's Dustin Meza. Some of you know me as the Paralysis Assassin. Many of you have probably never heard of me, and that's okay. But I still wanted to connect with you today, and I wanted to share about my book that is on pre-sale now. 12 years ago, I had a spinal cord injury, and it was devastating. It was the most devastating thing I've ever gone through in my life. My body shattered, my career felt shattered, my relationships were shattered. You know what? I even lost my home. I was homeless. And so I know what it's like to be absolutely wrecked from this injury. I know what it's like to try desperately to move your body and have nothing happen. I know what it's like to not be able to go to the bathroom on your own or even be able to feed yourself on your own. I know what it's like, you guys. I've been there. I know what it's like to want to get out of that wheelchair so damn bad that you push and push and push and absolutely nothing happens. I've been there. And that's why I wrote this book. I wrote this book because in my 12 years of research and recovery, I had the fortune to be able to meet, train, and even travel with some amazing healers, with some amazing practitioners of movement arts and of Eastern medicines. I wrote this book because I remember what it was like being in ICU and searching for answers. I remember what it was like to be so many years out and feel like, dang, what kind of direction can I take with this thing? What kind of strategy can I put together in order to make the most out of my recovery? Because of my teachers, I was able to develop strong foundation in order to recover. Because of my teachers, I was able to apply a consistent strategy that over the 12 years of my recovery have helped me to reach a level of rehabilitation so rarely seen with this injury. And that's why I wrote this book. I wrote this book because I wanted to share these insights with you. I wanted to let you know that you're not alone in this journey. And I wanted to provide you the footsteps of healing, rejuvenation, and recovery. So if you've had a spinal cord injury and you're looking for new strategies, then this book is for you. If you have a spinal cord injury and you're looking for a little inspiration, then this book is for you. And if you have a spinal cord injury, you just want to have a fun adventure and maybe just get outside of your wheelchair, if only in your mind, then this book is for you. I tried to write this book in a way that is both fun, compelling, and functional. I tried to write this book in a way that is both an adventure, and a bit of a manual. So I hope you'll go to my website today. I hope you'll pick yourself up a copy of Paralysis Assassin, Healing Spinal Cord Injury with Ancient Warrior Wisdom. I hope you'll do this today, because this book might just very well provide the answers that you need to take your recovery to the next level.
Who on this journey inspires you? Like, who do you look towards? Like, who are you studying that keeps you motivated, that keeps you inspired?
Any and everyone.
Okay.
I know that's like a big like response, but I mean, I've had the opportunity of meeting people like early on in their injury and then seeing where they are now. Just seeing their growth like as a person, like I get stuff from that. Not just the joy of seeing them do better, but how they're doing it, like what connected for them. I've seen kids injured and paralyzed, seeing their attitudes and their mentalities of just like the complete disregard of everything else going on and still being just happy, innocent children is absolutely amazing.
Wow.
Seeing how their families work through it, certain relationships. We have like a whole kind of walking quadriplegic, subgroup and stuff, like all of the ideas from, you to Melissa, Sebastian, Andrew, Alan, while he's involved, like, everybody has different perspectives and like some of them may work for me, some of them may not work, but just the more information that I can get helps me make better decisions for myself. So whether it's someone just starting out or someone that's been injured for 20 years, like I like hearing about it. And, sometimes there's new information and sometimes there's things that I've tried and I can cross off my list, but all of it's valuable.
And where do you find these folks? You found them on social media or?
A good bulk of it's been social media. Like luckily there's a big spinal cord injury community here in Colorado.
Oh,
And
nice.
so I've done peer mentoring. Like I've gone to some, meetups. I've done some peer groups locally. For
What's the name
social
of that
media,
group?
when I was like, well, the hospital is Craig Hospital.
Okay.
And they have their own peer groups. They have their own peer mentoring things. There's quad rugby here in Colorado. Chanda Plan has had peer groups as well.
Okay.
And then online, just meeting different people when I was on my own and really trying to figure out workouts on my own or, being by myself and just raising kids. It was like hashtags were really new. Instagram was still kind of new. So being able to find someone with a spinal cord injury, I couldn't do that on other platforms, but Instagram, for the, simple fact that I could hashtag something, allowed me to find other quadriplegics, other walking quads, other spinal cord injuries, and then communicating with those people. And like, sometimes I'd find a page and like, hey, like they're moving really well. I didn't know there were other walking quadriplegics, and then bouncing ideas, seeing their workout routines, seeing what their life was like, seeing them being parents, like all of this different stuff. Like, it's really valuable, not just getting that information, but then knowing what's possible too.
What would you say to PSI survivors who've been here in the game, but feel a little lost, feel discouraged, feel a little exhausted?
Um, that a lot of stuff is seasonal. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to always feel that way, but there are always ups and downs. Like, even for me, like sharing posts, I do have to like kind of remind people sometimes, like it is not an upward trajectory. Like there has been setbacks, there's been injuries, and they're not short term. Like there's been a whole year that I was dealing with, a fractured hip, like
Dang.
that I went from taking 10,000 steps a day to 300 steps a day, like just struggling to get into my car, kids to school, come
Wow.
home, cook dinner, and then like right back in bed. And, those aren't highlight moments. There's not a lot of pictures and videos of that, but there's going to be tough seasons and there's going to be good seasons. So it's kind of weathering that storm and, waiting for the next wave. Like I tried to maintain health the best as possible when things are going bad, because there's no way to really make a lot of progression when things are tough. And then when things are going good, I ride the hell out of that wave and I take it all the way to shore until the next thing happens.
Right on. Have you, speaking of the surfing analogy, since your injury, have you picked up any new hobbies or sports or activities?
Uh, Not yet. I mean, I enjoyed so much stuff before. It's like just seeing if I can relive some of those moments again or get the opportunity to do it again. So whether that's, hiking, had the chance to go fishing and get on a four-wheeler this year with,
Yeah.
some of our quad group, like that was a first. Um, I do want to get to do like a lot of different things with my kids, but it's like waiting for them to get old enough to really appreciate it instead of forcing them to do it is more of what I'm waiting on.
Okay.
And then yeah, just living and doing stuff with friends. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a new experience, but just getting to still experience, the love and support of others is all I really need anymore.
Right on. Do you think that there are some hobbies that like, if I could get myself to do this, I might try to pick this thing up?
Yes and no. I mean, I was such a big risk taker before and I did a whole lot before, like just being in sports, like, I've done the skydiving, I've done the cliff jumping, I've owned motorcycles, I've wrecked bikes, like I've done a lot of the dumb stuff.
Okay.
And so like I can go without it, but at the same time, like if I could get a trike, to feel speed and cruise around, like, that might be fun. I recently got an e-bike last year and
Nice.
can't really pedal it or get too far, but just being able to cover more ground and more distances and see more is nice. Um, and I'm sure more stuff will like come along, but I've had a good life like up to this point, and I'm sure there's going to be other experiences that I want to do, but for me, I'm one of those people where if I can't experience it with others, it's not as rewarding or as fulfilling with me. So I'd rather spend time, at a fast food restaurant with some of my best friends than, go on a trip alone.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Trips alone now are few and far between.
Yeah.
What would you say maybe to some young bloods in the game, people that are just getting started?
That's always patience.
Okay.
This injury early on, like, and it's hard because you hear people say like, I'm going to walk out of this hospital or I'm going to do this or that, or, it's been 8 months already. Like, what do I do? And it's like, for a lot of this is a lifetime situation. Like,
Oh yeah.
be patient. When and if things change, it's not going to be fast. It's not going to be sudden. And that excitement of seeing that change is usually just the beginning of the work to come. So, I mean, it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of time. Um, you got to really hang in there. Like it sucks and it's hard and it's, rough giving that advice sometimes, but we're in this for the long haul.
Yeah, there's no quick fix. It's just endure, really.
Yeah, I mean, I wish there was, some quick way to work it. And, people usually ask like, when did you start walking? Or, when did this happen? And it's like there was no lights on moment. Like, a flicker turned into a twitch, turned into two twitches, turned into a contraction. Like, and this happens over the course of years. So the
Yeah.
things that you want to happen in a couple weeks are going to take years to happen. And you have to be patient enough and then consistent enough to get something out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. That's good advice. Um, Last question here, man. Why do you think you've been so successful with your recovery over the years?
Um, just because I'm hard headed and stupid enough to not quit.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I'm very consistent and dedicated. So I think that's been one of the biggest strengths. And then also not accepting, I guess, no as a first answer or option. Like I do like to try and like find out for myself. Like I know other people have gone through this injury. I respect other people's experiences. I respect doctors' input and opinions. But at the end of the day, it's still my life. Like I do need to learn. I do need to try. Um, I do need to see things through. I don't really like getting discouraged like quickly. Like I know just about anything that I start doing at minimum is going to take me 4 to 6 weeks probably to see the benefits of.
Wow.
And so like understanding that up front, like, if I start stretching today, I'm not going to be better tomorrow. I'm not going to be better next week. 2 weeks, I might be sore. Like I might actually see less improvement just because my muscles are getting reactive. 3 or 4 weeks, I might start seeing something. Like, being patient and hanging in there is probably one of the main reasons why I've done well.
I'm going to add one more question that wasn't prepared for, but do you have like a strong connection with a higher power? Do you have a strong connection with faith?
I usually just label everything as faith because I've had so many people treat me well, like through this injury. Like I've seen people get kind of destructive on naming names or, calling out one way or another. And I believe as long as people have some type of faith or some type of purpose and direction, like, that's the most meaningful thing. And that's the way that I've carried myself. Like, my kids are Catholic, like my family's been Christian, like my mom was looking into Buddhism for a while. Like, it doesn't necessarily matter at the end of the day, just as long as you have some type of belief or faith, like in something bigger than yourself.
Right on. Right on. I agree. I think that's an invaluable asset to be able to lean on. Whatever your
Yeah.
beliefs are, whatever.
Yeah. Sometimes people get too caught up in, which book or, I see things this way or I see things that way, and people will literally go to war over small differences. But it's like, as long as you're focused on being a good person and doing the right thing for the right reasons, like, I'm hands off after that.
Right on, man. Great. Fantastic, man. You blew through all my questions. I don't know if there's anything that you want to add to that, or
Not necessarily. It's good just getting to catch up with you some after a while. I felt
yeah,
kind of bad because I was having a head cold these last couple of days, and I was like, well, I don't want to cancel or change anything, so hopefully I don't sound too nasally. And I brought some tissue to the desk, but my eyes aren't running and my nose isn't running, so I'm glad we made it through it.
you look healthy, man. I thought I was gonna have to cancel too. I went out fishing with my buddy, and we ended up staying out all freaking day. So I thought I was just gonna be roasted red today. So happy to not. But yeah, man, really cool to catch up with you. A lot of really good, valuable information that I hope folks can connect with and really hear and start to put into play. I want to provide these discussions for folks so that they don't have to spend as much time in those groundwork days just doing it all by themselves. They can lean on to some of us that have been here for a little bit longer, that have kind of run through our own trials and tribulations, and same thing with the therapist, right? Other therapists will be able to hear like, hey, this is what's really real for these folks. This is what they're really going through and what's valuable for them, what actually helps. And hopefully the more folks that we can, share this intel with, the more folks we can see really having success with their injury, instead of like I've talked to folks that are like, oh, okay, well, I didn't know what to do. And the doctors told me, oh, in 10 years, there's going to be this chip that'll go in my brain. And so I'm just going to wait for that. And it's like, well, there goes your 10 years of active participation in your recovery. And now like, you can't get that back.
And I try telling people too, like, one reason why I've been able to participate in so many studies is they know they can bring me in and I can actively participate. So say even if you were a complete injury or anything else, if you haven't been doing your standing frame, if your blood pressure is not in check, if you are not taking care of yourself up until that point, you will be disqualified from participating in other studies because you're, a break risk, you're a fracture risk. Like you have to take care of yourself to even be able to do these things in the future. Like if they come up with a chip that they can implant into your brain and it connects to everything, a lot of people are not in condition or in shape to have muscles in their body working. They're going to go run and jump off a stair and shatter their leg immediately. So, there is a reason to stay on top of your health, like to even be able to participate in these things. If, some miracle cure does happen, some chip works out or some drug cures things the next day, some people aren't in a position to even deal with that. They're still going to be in bed with the cure.
That's a really, really good point. So even if folks are relying on a future technology, you're saying they should still prepare themselves as best they can for when that technology is available, so that they aren't, an increased risk or a liability to themselves. That's what you're
Yeah,
saying.
like if you're not taking care of yourself heading it, yeah. Like if they're not taking care of their health, like going into it, like, say if someone gains a lot of weight and a cure happens, like they might not be able to carry that weight. Their bone structure might not be able to handle it. Their blood pressure might not be able to handle it. There's people that small falls will fracture bones. And so if you get up in one of those exoskeletons and you haven't been doing the standing frame, your likelihood of being injured is like significantly higher.
Yeah.
So there's just like a lot of stuff where it really pays off to still take care of yourself. And again, it's not always about, the hope of walking. It's just general health. It's just taking care of yourself so that if something happens, you're in a better position where you're not struggling, or you can take advantage of whatever, the best resource is.
You really good advice. I hope a lot of people pay attention to that. We practice a lot in our classes about like just conditioning the body, because the reality is you are gonna have falls. You're gonna put yourself into precarious situations, and we don't even really discuss like, oh, future technologies or whatever. It's just like, no, right now we want to get our body like as recovered, as stable, as strong as possible, so that as you move forward, you're not compromised in other ways. It's really important.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm always hopeful that something will come out, but I mean, some of the technologies now are the same things that they were talking about 10 years ago. And if I had been waiting this whole time, I, without a doubt, would still be in a chair, waiting. So, I mean, you got to make best of what you have now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to let you run here, man, but I want to ask one last question. What would you say to folks that are trying to make the transition from chair to beyond?
Um, I guess get a plan in place that you can stick to. I think initially when people get really motivated, we tend to put more on our plate than we can technically handle long term. We might be able to really stick to a routine for 1 week or 2 weeks, and that gets you started. But if you're going to drop and fall off, then it's not worthwhile a month or 2 months. So like, even if it seems minimal, find the things that you can do on a regular, consistent basis. Like long term, that will benefit you more, getting to where you want to go. Like the motivation for 1 week or 2 weeks that you're just going to drop off on, that's not helpful. And how we were talking about some of the day-to-day living type stuff, if you can work on standing at a counter for brushing your teeth, if you can work on helping to do the dishes, like those real life activities, building those as part of your routine or as part of your therapy and stuff like that, you're more likely to stick to those because you have to get them done. And then once you're comfortable doing that and you find, hey, I didn't get tired doing the dishes today, then, add another task, add something else. Like it doesn't have to be this huge, planned out program that's going to fall apart in a month. Find the little things, day-to-day activities, and then add to them, in small increments as you go on.
I love it, man. Great advice. Great topic, great conversation today, man. I really appreciate your help with this. And like I said, I hope a lot of people can hear the message that you're sharing, and the insights that you've acquired over your time with this injury. I think that if people pay attention, it can really save them years off of their return. So I hope that for our listeners. Is there anything you want to share, as we sign off here?
No, I'm just glad you're taking time to do this, and hopefully, get some of the resources together for people. I'm good at sharing my little world, but finding a place and a resource where you can get like multiple stories and a lot of information is really useful. So thank you for taking the time to do it. And I know you're very studious and you like learning, and you have your own experiences and your own research, but you've been so good about really listening to others that, I'm kind of excited to see who you pull from and how you get all this together.
Right on, man. Yeah, we got some good folks lined up. A couple other folks with spinal cord injury that are also having some success, as well as I got a couple therapists, trainers that are going to come on and talk to us about different. Each one of them has a different speciality, so this kind of will give us a more broad perspective or a holistic perspective on how to engage this, this journey. That's really what it is. It's a journey. It's not like like I broke my bone and in so many weeks, my bone's going to be right as rain and I'm going to be moving on with life. It's like, no, this thing you're going to be working on forever. Best to get a good strategy, a good team by your side, and really take a proactive, conscious engagement with it if you want to have, long-term success with it. But man, I'm so glad
the therapist one will be.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say the therapist one will be kind of interesting too, because I've had people that, for better or worse, like, said they were struggling with it, communicated it, but then followed through with, ending things. And like, as a therapist, I wonder how they would, address that, because I know sometimes when I'm talking to other people, it's a hard, I guess, conversation and thought process, because people are grieving and it is something hard. So you can't discredit how much someone's hurting through the situation. There's no way to say like, it's not meaningful, it's not worth it, or what you're feeling, isn't true. But then how do you kind of cover that bridge where it's like, it's not bad enough to, think of these things? Like, I wonder how a therapist would deal with that, because having been through the situation, like, I can see how people feel like absolute crap when you in some cases have lost everything, whether it's, home, job, family, and relationship. Like, people have every right to feel awful, but then how do you say, don't do this, or, don't harm yourself because it hopefully gets better? Like, those are some tough conversations.
Yeah.
We'll get stories from a lot of people that have complete injuries and other stuff too, and it's really hard to keep them going off of hope when they have every reason to feel like there's not a lot of hope. And so being able to be like, hey, well, still work on these things are still worthwhile. Like, I understand what you're feeling and the fear of it, but then you also can't give false hope and be like, yeah, you're gonna get out of that chair with a very severe spinal cord injury and a complete injury, and it's been 7 years of no movement. Like,
sure.
It's,
we got to be honest. We got to have honest conversations.
Yeah.
But I think one of the challenges with people that don't have hope is that there's not enough examples. Like, I mean, you're one of the few folks that you're active with your social media sharing, but like I barely share about my journey. And I'm sure there's a lot of other folks out there with our injuries that are not as social media inclined. But if we can find those examples, if we can connect more people with those stories of folks that have endured and overcome, I think that in that space, seeing that it's not just like everybody with this injury is in a wheelchair, or this false narrative. I think we need more people like you that can come forward and share, like, hey, it's about a strategy. It's about discipline and just doing the most that you can do with what you got. And if we can have those conversations, I think there's more folks that will find, hey, I can do that. Like, I can do that little bit and add a little bit more and add a little bit more. Like you said, like, as you get more comfortable with just standing and doing dishes, maybe you could add a little bit more. But if we never find those folks that are having success, then a lot of times what we see on social media is a lot of examples of folks not having success. And that, like you said earlier about comparing ourselves, there's more examples of folks not achieving what they want to achieve post-injury than of folks that are having the success, even mild success with this thing. So I want to be able to bring more folks like yourself to the masses so that folks can say, hey, yeah, actually, like, there is a bit of possibility with this thing. And it may not be perfect, and it's certainly not going to go back to exactly how it was. But if I could get to semblance, if I could discover a little bit of happiness along the way, find a little bit of peace with this thing, maybe there is some room for growth and success, however that might, express or manifest itself for each individual and injury and all of that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Man, you gave, I could probably take each one of these questions and make it its own, its own topic. You really blasted on a lot of good stuff here, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Yeah, and thank you for developing questions and asking any and everything. Like, sometimes we get caught up in it's the usual questions of how did this happen? Well, what about this? But actually taking time to find things that are meaningful, and hopefully that will help others.
Right on, brother. Well, I appreciate you so much, and I look forward to more and more of your success and watching your family grow as you continue down this journey. Love to check back in with you, after we've done a couple, I don't know, maybe a year, 2 years or something. We can talk before then, but for another podcast, maybe bring you in and see if anything else is new and improved with you.
Yeah, hopefully. That's the goal.
Absolutely. Me too, man. All right, brother, I'm gonna let you run. Have a great Sunday, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Yeah, the bathroom's calling me, so I better take off.
I heard that. All right, man. See ya.
All right. Talk to you later.